So you think you wouldn't find too much on a one-bedroom apartment, all of a sudden they got a massive cladding problem and a huge bill coming.
We learned a best practice. So even though the code might not say you need to do that, you go above and beyond to make sure you're not going to have issues down the track, because an issue down the track for you is an issue down the track for me.
More and more people are living in high-density living, apartments, units. Townhouses are very popular. A lot of the new builds are townhouses. Do these properties still need building and pest inspections? And do they have anything different about their inspections because they might be under a strata?
Yeah, well, all properties are a property that needs and can be inspected. Regardless, you can inspect a granny flat right up to a mansion. I do a lot of apartments. We do a lot of apartments in Melbourne. Strata properties, we don't inspect common areas generally on strata properties, but we'll also comment if the client requests. What's our opinion on the condition of the building, condition of the common areas. Do a lot of apartments, and that throws up other issues like cladding. We've got a combustible cladding issue in Victoria, which is now coming to an end, but there are still buildings out there with combustible cladding installed. That's really important feedback for clients. So you think you wouldn't find too much on a one-bedroom apartment, all of a sudden they got a massive cladding problem and a huge bill coming. All properties can be inspected regardless of what they are.
And apart from things like the common areas, is there anything different about those strata properties, the ones, apartments, townhouses, or it's basically the same as a detached house?
I pretty much treat them all the same.
We treat them all the same. We do. But you can give a person, I suppose, comfort in just in the knowledge of what we can see of the building or the complex when we're entering. It might be a complex of townhouses. It might be a high-rise. I did one about 6 months ago in Surfers Paradise and, checked out the car space and there was a downpipe leaking right where her car was going to be parked. So she's 50 metres from the surf. There's going to be salt air on the roof. It washes down the downpipe and it's going to drip on her car. So, she didn't think of that, and I'm not saying I'm brilliant, but these are sort of things that we're looking for. So although it's an apartment, you think, okay, it's safe, there's maybe no termites and stuff because you're up on the 7th floor or something. Down the car park, there's damage going on to her property.
So when it comes to apartments, units, townhouses, are they properties you should also be concerned about termites in? Because when I think of an apartment, especially one that's, second or third story, I think surely there's no way the termites are getting up there, right? But is that true?
No, that's not true. So yes, there can be termites on the 3rd floor. So I did an inspection on a block of flats, units in Surface, Southport actually, last year. And it's a 70 or so year old building, but covered in poinciana trees. So you've got all the conducive conditions for termites because of the gutters are overflowing into the frame of the building. And even though it's that high, there's pipework against the side of the brickwork that leads down to the garden where there's like a leaky tap because the building's so old. And so you've got drips from rusty gutterings and things like that. And so, yes, the termites can get their way up to the building, up to the 3rd floor, where quite often there's still a timber frame, there's still a timber roof frame, there's still skirting an architrave and maybe a bit of a leak in the shower. So, yes, you do have to. If you've got like a 40th floor unit, you may not, and particularly a new building. But older buildings that are, let's say, up to 10-storey, they have a lot of timber frame and maybe some structural issues over the years. They can very well get up into your unit, yes.
I want to talk a little bit about new builds now. So houses that are in the process of being built or have just been built. Do they still need a building inspection? Is it the same as the one before you buy a established house?
It is the same inspection, but you do tackle it differently. So when you do a building and pest on an existing home, you see the problems in front of you, you report it. You can't change them. You report what you see, and that's really the end of what you have to do on that property. A new build is a journey from start to finish with a client. So you want all the stages to be looked at. You want to be able to advise and help the client right through the build because you're representing the client to the builder, and you want to create a relationship between the three parties. And look, a general build will take 6 to 8 months. So that's your client for that period of time. So I've got a number of clients at the moment where they ring me reasonably regularly and say, Ron, I saw this, I saw that. Is it a concern? I say, no. Next time I'm going past, I'll have a quick look. So you're helping them through the journey of building a house. That would be better than seeing it just at the very end with one QA inspection. But at least if you did a QA, you've had that single inspection.
Because quite naively, as someone who knows very little about the building and construction industry, I would presume that a new build doesn't need a building inspection because surely someone is signing off on things like the building surveyor, the architect, when they're building the house. But while that is the case, it's also not entirely the case. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So although you're getting it checked out by, say, a certifier, when you've got someone like us helping you through the stage inspections, we're giving you advice on things that you don't want to let go. And there's also there's practices that you can do the standard, but then you get a builder that goes above and beyond. Mm. And that's the part that I like to see. You know, there's certain things you can pick about a house when it's starting to get built that the builder pays more attention to doing a better practice than just the norm. So you can advise your client on whether or not you don't really want to tell somebody they're not getting the best practice. That's a part that's uncomfortable. But you do get to see how it's getting built on the way through, and you can give advice on things that need to be changed or picked up on the way through. And certifiers, I shouldn't say that certifiers don't always measure things, check things for plumb like we do, and we have to. And so there is things that they may miss that we hope not to. Mm. We feel we won't. So,
well, I think I was saying to Ron a bit earlier the fact that everyone's human. Even the building certifier may make a mistake. And so if you've got a separate building and pest inspector doing those stage inspections, you've almost got a safety net. You know, you've got a second person double checking things, which just makes it a little less likely something's going to slip through the cracks, right?
Absolutely. Two heads are better than one.
Exactly, yeah.
Instead of one person inspecting it, you've got two. Looking at it from different perspective and experiences, you know, like you come from a different angle because of what their role is compared to ours, you know, and it may be like a slab inspection. They may not have done a lot of slab inspections, where I've worked with a lot of concrete and a lot of slab inspections. So, you know, we have our strengths. Each of us have our strengths in the building industry, you know, but just always best practice. Two heads are better than one.
I want to talk about the quality of new builds at the moment. You've both had, you know, about 40, 50 years between the two of you, experience as builders. So you've seen a lot of building over the last half century. What is the quality, in your opinion, of new builds today?
It definitely has declined, certainly in what I've seen in Melbourne and Victoria. Particularly, it was declining before COVID, probably the last 10 to 8 years, a slow decline in general quality. But certainly COVID really made a mess of the industry, and the industry is struggling. And there's a combination of just monetary pressures, getting trades, qualified people, lack of tradesmen, builders going broke, a lot of builders going broke in Victoria. So there's definitely been a big decline that I have seen.
Would you agree with that, Adrian? What's the situation with building quality up in Queensland?
Similar but different, I suppose. But I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of, I guess it's you get what you pay for, maybe. So there's standard practices and then there's best practice. And being in our generation, you know, we've done really, I know I have done in the days when quality was more important. And you got a clip behind the ear by your carpenter who was looking over you if you weren't doing things right. But we learned a best practice. So even though the code might not say you need to do that, you go above and beyond to make sure you're not going to have issues down the track, because an issue down the track for you is an issue down the track for me as well as the builder. So you learn better sort of methods, and quite often you come into a new build and they're just getting slapped together. A lot of the new products are better products. They're going to last longer, won't be moisture affected and things like that. But general sort of structural practices can be just not as good a quality. And same in the finishes. You know, I've done handover inspections for one particular company, one in Brisbane, one on the Gold Coast, similar size houses, and the quality of the finish was just not the same, simply because of the site supervisor, his opinion on the quality of the finish and on what he'll put up with, and the quality of the painter the finishing of the paint, So, coming from, I've got a bit of a painting background. My whole family were painters. I'm the only carpenter because I don't like painting. But, and so I look at those things and I can't stand that, those are sort of things that will get you by and might be allowable. But is it a better practice? No. Is it as good as it was in the old days? No. So that's my opinion. So there's still good builders around.
And it's not to say don't go for a new build because there's lots of new builds available.
For sure.
There's a big push for housing in Australia and a lot of the housing is great and it's very affordable for people who might be purchasing their first home. But perhaps have a think about a building and pest inspection to sort of get a bit of peace of mind about the quality you're investing in, right?
Absolutely.
Correct.
Get more news and advice by downloading the RACV app to stay up to date with all our latest home, motoring and travel content.